this is Ralph, and in this video I want to go over the basic parts of setting up our new web page. So in a previous video, kind of looked at setting up a simple page, just typing it up in Notepad++. So let's go a little bit further now. And we're going to start off just above this opening HTML tag, and we're going to write in what's called a doc type definition. And it's an exclamation, doc type HTML. And I'm going to write it just like this with exclamation mark, capital doc type, and then HTML. This is basically an indicator of which version of the markup language that we're using. HTML comes in different versions, just kind of like software comes out in different versions. And the latest is HTML5. In order to indicate that we're using HTML5, we type this doc type definition. Earlier versions of HTML, for instance XHTML 1.0 and HTML4, those are previous versions, they had a slightly different doc type definition. And you've actually seen this before if you're watching some of those earlier videos, and you could check it out for yourself right now. If you were, for instance, going to any website, certainly a modern website, here's Apple's website again, and I'll just right click in a blank area, view the page source, we can see the doc type definition is always at the very top of the page, and it's usually just before the opening HTML doc. So every web page you write is going to have a doc type definition up at the very top, and it's generally going to have this one, which is for HTML5. Let's just go to another site real quick. How about let's check out Yahoo. Put my arrow on a blank part of a page, right click, view the page source, and sure enough, once again, there's the doc type definition right at the very top. So that's what we're going to have on all of our pages, the doc type definition for HTML5 or whatever version of markup language that you're using. Now in the opening HTML tag, that's kind of like the start of our HTML web page. And notice there's a closing HTML tag down here at the bottom. There's the start of our HTML document, and there's the end of our HTML document. Start and stop. In this HTML document, I'm going to go ahead and do an attribute in here. Lang for language equals en-us. So English US. And different pages may use this. It's not as critical as other things we've seen, but we see it here over in Yahoo source code too. They have the language attribute. Language equals English US. So that's a pretty common one to use. Now you'll notice over here at Yahoo they also have a class attribute. We're not going to do one of those today. And they also have a style attribute that's not being used. I'm not going to do one of those today either. So the most critical one is we have our doc type definition, and then we have an opening HTML tag with language attribute. And that takes care of that part. So on ours, we've got the same thing. Now we're going to get into the head section of our page. So to help clarify this a little bit, let me indent. And so I have an opening head tag and a closing head tag that marks the head of our web page. And it's going to contain information that's very important about our page, but it's not necessarily displayed right on the web page. In the previous video, for instance, you saw me explain that the title in the head section is used on the title of the browser or the tab of the browser, or if someone bookmarks the page. But you don't actually see the title within the web page itself. That's used for the body. So in addition to the title of our page, I'm also going to put up a common meta tag. I'll do a meta charset equals UTF-8. Charset is character encoding. This tells our browser that we're going to be using character encoding UTF-8, and there's different varieties of this, and the details aren't too critical, but basically this ultimately comes down to how characters are converted into zeros and ones. So this is one of the most common character encodings to use, meta charset UTF-8. So if I go back over to that Yahoo page, let's see if they're using one in here. And sure enough, they're using a slightly older variety, okay, but it's still doing the same thing. So it's right up here above their title tag. And there it is, Carset UTF-8. Let's go back over to Apple's real quick. See, Apple is doing one a little bit more similar to what you just saw me type. They're doing meta Carset equals UTF-8. You notice they have a slash here at the end. This is also a little bit of a dated technique. You do not need to have that closing slash there. So, but we are using character encoding UTF-8 just like Apple and Yahoo, and we're typing it in a slightly different way, very close to what Apple is doing. So on ours, oops, there we go. We've got our Carset UTF-8. Of course, I've got my title in there, and let me do one more meta that you'll there we go. I'll leave that empty. So meta description, not too critical for actually making our web page, but it's something I'd like for you to get in the habit of doing. A description for your page. So whereas the title is the unique title for the page that you're working on, the description will be the unique description for the page that you're working on.